Welcome to Noticeables. I'm your host, Joe Chapin. Today we're going to be talking about Detroit Lions training camp July 31st. The Detroit Lions have opened up practice to the fans. Obviously, they started Saturday and they started some Sunday, but they have finally, and fans are going to start rolling in through the week, and they're going to get to see the Detroit Lions. Now, there was a lot of things that happened today, including Marvin Jones being taken off the no football injury list. He's been taken off the non-football injury list, and he's returned to practice. Where we get to practice, that is where the fun really started. And we're going to get into a couple things, but there's one thing I'm going to get to at the end of the video, and you might want to stay tuned to that because I have a particular opinion because I'm sick of the total shit takes and shit opinions that are coming from certain people. We'll get to that in a minute. Obviously, if you were following from Twitter and you were following the tweets from Detroit Lions beat writers, from Pride of Detroit, from Detroit Lions Lowdown, they all said the same thing. Practice was tense today, and that is something that you love to see as we get closer to the preseason games because ultimately preseason is to put your team in the best position and have them ready for game action. It is not about being perfect. It is never be about being perfect, and we're going to get to reasons why it's not be about being perfect, but that's what it's about. Now, one of the things I want to highlight first off is the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson hit on Jahmyr Gibbs and the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs bounced right up. Now, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, we know he's a physical player and he likes to hit, he likes to throw the body around, and we've seen it in the Super Bowl against I forget who the running back was for the Kansas City Chiefs, but we saw him hit stick the hell out of him, and he does it in a violent but clean way, and that's the way football should be played. And he did it to Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jahmyr Gibbs got right back up and it was ready to go. And it's kind of like the welcome to the NFL moment for Jahmyr Gibbs because there's not many players that are going to give Jahmyr Gibbs that little jolt of a hit. But Chauncey Gardner Johnson is obviously one of those players. So I'm going to read you some snippets from um, it's from Detroit Lions Lowdown. For the first one was both kickers went 4 for 5 on Monday. Distances ranging from 33 to 51 yards out. Parker Romo missed on his last attempt from 51 yards out, while Riley Patterson missed wide right from 45 yards out on his only miss of the morning practice. That's intriguing because they both went 4 for 5. Obviously, you'd like to see them perfect, but like I said in the beginning of the video, and this will be the theme throughout the video, practice is not about being perfect, it is practicing to be perfect. Now, this is where I'm going to save this third snippet for the last portion of the video. Um, During tag team drills, David Montgomery left Alex Anzalone in the dust, easily skirting by the veteran linebacker. Others who notably won reps included C.J. Gardner-Johnson over Mo Ibrahim, Dylan Drummond, and Derek Barnes also impressed. And then the 6 point. This is one of the players that I think is going to be a really good player for the Detroit Lions, and the fact that he has the tutelage of Chauncey Gardner Johnson in that same position is really good for the Detroit Lions. Brian Branch continues to make impactful plays as a young defensive back, swatted multiple passes on the first and second team defense. On a daily basis, the young defensive back is making his presence felt, and it's hard not to notice in Aaron Glenn's defense. He recently told reporters he's no longer a student of the game. He eats, sleeps, and breathes football, and that's exactly why you drafted him, and that's exactly why he was in Nick Saban's locker room, because you don't go in Nick Saban's locker room and be like the leader of that defense, and you are just I'm just gonna play football for the hell of it. No, you eat, sleep, and breathe football, and that's exactly what Brian Branch is. And I'm positive the Detroit Lions drafted Brian Branch just on that mentality alone. Broderick Martin is starting to showcase why the coaching staff is excited about his development in the system. His sheer size and power makes it difficult for running backs to rush up the middle. The defensive line is chock full of young talent, each vying for the opportunity to earn more playing time. Martin has been benefiting from being around established veterans. Now, there's a couple of there's a couple of things, and I'm going to get to this last one, and I feel like this is the most important of the day. The third one, this is the last point I'm going to make because there were some decent points, but I want to get to this. Jameson Williams had multiple drops early in practice. I recorded as many as 4 early drops, 2 of which occurred without any defenders on him. During a rep with which he shed Chauncey Gardner Johnson quickly, it was wide open. Either a mix-up in communication or not being in the exact spot resulted in batting incompletion. The second-year wide receiver has started to just demonstrate elite bursts off the line of scrimmage, and his speed is never into question. But the connection and chemistry with Detroit's quarterback still has a long way to go. He was able to secure a touchdown during the 7-on-7 period, but many left clamoring for the second-year wideout to be more of a factor than just a solid blocker. Now, what they left out in that snippet of the article was that Jameson Williams laid a block to get Jahmyr Gibbs to the next level. And look, I know that there is going to be a ton of pressure on Jameson Williams. I know that people want Jameson Williams to be great, and and there's a lot of pressure on him to be great. But when you are in training camp, the main objective of training camp, the main objective of training camp is to start getting chemistry with your quarterback, with the wide receivers. And if you're a quarterback, you're trying to get with the wide receivers. If you're a wide receiver, you're trying to get with the quarterback, vice versa. Training camp is about establishing a connection, getting yourself ready for the regular season. That's why you have 2 weeks to prepare before your first preseason game. You know, a lot of things happen. And, you know, Jameson Williams missed a couple days early in the training camp because he was injured with an it seems like a knee injury. I don't know what it was, and they wouldn't tell us, but I wouldn't expect them to tell us. But look, you hear the opinions from everyone along the lines of that Jameson Williams, you know, the maturity issues. I turned on 97 the ticket, and they were talking about Jameson Williams, and they're talking about the one pass that he dropped and how that's a big deal. No one talks about the block that he led in practice, okay? No one talks about him torching Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. No one talks about that 7-on-7 pass that he caught. They talk about the bad things. I feel like this is one of the problems with fans in general. You look at the bad, but you don't look at the good. And a lot of times what the media will do is focus on the bad, especially when it's a player who is a first round pick, who got suspended for gambling, who didn't play his first year, a majority of the year because he was hurt. Like, there's a lot of things with Jameson Williams that people already have a target on his back, which I think is totally unfair. I think you're putting a target on the kid's back. You are obviously showing that number one, you've never really watched football and you've never seen the development curve of some of these players. Yes, you would love them to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I got news for you. There's only one Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are rare guys, the guys that just eat, live, and sleep football and just find themselves in the right position. Now, Jameson Williams, we obviously know he missed the first portion of the year last year, and he didn't get into like the later half of the year. We know that he's going to be suspended for his first 6 games, and this preseason, this training camp, is very vitally crucial for Jameson Williams' development and establishing a connection with Jared Goff. I'm not worried about Jameson Williams. I think when you get closer to the game time, you get closer. He's gonna find a rhythm with Jared Goff. They're gonna find a connection, and that's the way it's gonna work. You know, training camp is about establishing a connection. It's not about being perfect. You don't want to practice perfect. You want to be perfect because of the practice that you do. I think a lot of people are missing the point. You know, when you talk about Jameson Williams and you talk about what he has done, look, he hasn't done much. And as a first round pick, where he was picked, you expect a lot. But we all know when we drafted him that there was going to be the first year was going to be kind of a red shirt year, and we didn't expect the second year to start with 6-game suspension. So look, you can look at Jameson Williams all you want in any different circle, different categories. You could say like he's a bust. That's totally like irresponsible and just a bad take. But if you are looking at it responsibly, you look at what he did good in practice, and you look at what he did bad in practice, you chalk it up as practice. Ultimately and figuratively, it's practice. Like Allen Iverson said, it is practice. We're talking about practice. And practice is to get better. It's not a you can be the best player in practice and be the worst player in the game, and no one's gonna care. So if Jameson Williams sucks at practice and he's good in the games, there is gonna be no one saying anything. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If you guys just focus, practice and training camp is to get a connection. It is not to be perfect. So I know there's a lot of people in the media talking about the bad things that Jameson Williams did. They're not talking about the good things that Jameson Williams did. And honestly, that's just disingenuous because if you're talking about it from a realistic standpoint, your job as a journalist, which I know is dead. I know journalism is dead. But your job as a journalist is to give us both sides of the equation. We're not getting both sides of the equation by some of these people. They want to hit the Jameson Williams drop the pass. You didn't talk about Jameson Williams making that block. You didn't talk about Jameson Williams burning Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. This is what I'm talking about. And I feel like a lot of the Detroit Lions fan base is becoming victim to just reading the headlines and not looking at the full picture. And it's a very disingenuous part by some of the beat writers. I know there was Jeremy Reisman of Pride of Detroit. He put a good tweet out there, and I've retweeted it on my Twitter, Joe Chap Detroit. But ultimately, people need to look at the big picture because no one is going to care about Jameson Williams being great in practice. More importantly, you're looking to be good in the game. You're looking to be great in the game. You don't care about what happens in practice because I'm pretty sure at one point in time, Eric Ebron was great at practice. What Jameson Williams does at practice really doesn't matter because he's going to get judged ultimately for his play on the field. That is it. I don't care about the extracurricular activities. Don't care about it. Do not care. What does he do on the field? You could have opinions on his off the field stuff. You can have it. But ultimately, his play is going to be judged. His contract is going to be judged if he gets that 5th year option on what he does on the field. And if people talk about it, he will be on the field and he will be doing things the right way. I'm Joe Chap of Between the Whistles Detroit. I will see you in the next video and we will talk to you next time.